Welcome to Deep Talks on Love. Let us start with our first speaker, who is dialing from the sunny Mexico. Julia, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I am Julia and I am in Mexico right now. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I'm a psychologist and a systemic coach. And this is actually my second time that I'm joining Julia on a Deep Talks session. Just so you know what I'm working with, my coaching topics are typically around finding your purpose, your calling, choosing the right career path, making career decisions, and of course, relationships, which is the topic that's closest to my heart. And it can be singles who want to work on what kind of person do I attract, what kind of relationship would I want to have, or couples that struggle or want to develop their relationship further. And I got very excited when Julia asked me again to join this discussion, because I feel that the pandemic somehow redirects our focus even more towards questions around love that we will discuss today. Because some of us are trapped at home with their life partner, which is challenging. And for singles, it can be harder to date. So I think that's a perfect time to talk about love.
Thank you very much, Julia. And our second guest is joining us from snowy England. Caoi, please introduce yourself.
Hi, yes. So my name is Caoilfhionn Nic Conmara, and I'm a coach trained in orgasmic meditation. And I also host a podcast called In Bed with Caoi. And I suppose the lens that I look at everything through is a spiritual one, but also a sexual lens, and also through the body. So I love looking at the topics. Oh, sorry, there's a bit of feedback there. I think someone needs to mute. I love looking at the topic of relationships through the lens of spiritual awakening, through the lens of erotic awakening, and through taking full responsibility for your life and for what you're experiencing. So when Julie invited me to this event, I was so excited. I love talking about it. I love hearing other people's perspectives. So I'm so excited to hear what Julia and Julian, what they all have to say. That was a lot to say in one go. I'm so excited to hear their perspective and to have that feedback also from you guys, from the people attending. Yeah.
Thank you, Caoi. And finally, Julian, our only man in the panel, joining the same as I do from Berlin.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this expert panel. I am already very excited and look forward to a great discussion with you. Thanks especially to Julia, to the Mexican Julia, who asked me if I'm interested in taking part here, because we know each other from our systemic coach education. And I immediately said, yes, I would like to take part here. Yeah, I am. My name is Julian, which doesn't make things easier today, as we already have two other Julias under us. So my full name is Julian Burstedde. I'm a couple therapist with two practice locations in Berlin, one city location in Schöneberg, and one country location in Klado, which is close to Potsdam. Yeah. The age range of my clients is from 25 to 80, with a focus on the late 30s to the mid 50s, I would say. Among them are pretty much all professional groups, from medical professionals to craftsmen, from lawyers to soldiers, from entrepreneurs to administrative employees, from teachers to public figures. So a little bit of everything. And the topic are the classic couple therapy topics, I would say. Conflict, disputes, infidelity, sexual problems, development of relationship, so a wide range. And I hope to take out of this session maybe some new ideas that will make me think in other directions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now a quick question to all of you who joined to listen to our audience. I invite you to answer one question, anonymous poll. What is your love life status? Are you in a relationship? Are you newly in love? Are you single looking for love? Maybe you're heartbroken, happy alone, or is it complicated? It will give us a sense who is in the audience, and help us to zoom in into certain topics. So let us give it a few more seconds. Okay. So I think that indeed, okay. Perfect. Okay, 82% voted. So whoever wants to vote now, otherwise let us stay silent and let us have a look at the results. So I'm sharing the results. I hope you can see them. So what we see, interestingly enough, the leaders of our responses, both 38% and 38%, are in long-term relationships or singles looking for love. So it is perfect. We have a couple of couples therapists. We've all had long journeys to love. So I think we will have enough points to address, which hopefully will be interesting. Yeah, on that note, let us jump straight into our discussion. And I would like actually to open with the same question which we have just asked the audience. It is, what is your love life status? And add another deep talks question on top. What have you learned through your journey to love? So whoever feels like starting, you go, and whoever feels like continuing, we always go it in a freestyle.
I took a risk. Yeah, so I'm in a long-term relationship, and I'm in the unusual position where I got with my partner during COVID when he was in another country, and we've since gotten engaged. So it's been a wild ride and really fun. I had met him in person, but we'd never interacted in that way, but we met online and got together. So that was very exciting. And yeah, like I suppose the thing I've learned most about love is the spots where I love myself or put attention and caring and approving for myself, those spots get reflected in how my partner treats me as well.
Very, very hopeful to hear that somebody can meet and get engaged during COVID. And yeah, congratulations on this.
Thank you. It was months ago, actually. We got engaged after a month. We did a bit crazy. But yeah, thank you for the congratulations.
You need to give a second seminar on how to get engaged within 1 month.
I will do that, yes. Yeah.
Julia?
Hey, then I'll go next. I am happily coupled. I have found my life partner in 2018 on Tinder, actually. And about a year ago, we sat down together and talked about not only what we wanted our relationship to look like, but also our life, ideally. And then we realized that actually we have everything in our power to make that happen. And that's why the Mexico thing happened. We became digital nomads like 3 months ago and started on a journey through Latin America. So we're currently working from Mexico and living here. And it was a tough journey for me to get to that point where I had such a relationship. To be honest, in my 20s, I was the classic serial monogamist. So every 2 years, I would fall in love with the next guy and leave the last one until at some point I finally learned my lesson out of that, which was I need to figure out first what I want from a guy and from a relationship and from life. So I shouldn't let guys choose me, but figure out what I want and then find that guy, go out looking and find the guy that actually matches my personality and my plans and my dreams. So finally, I think when I turned 30, I sat down and figured out what I needed before jumping into the next relationship. And then I found that guy, he's right there. So I think my lesson about myself was that I crave love so much that I didn't make sure that it comes from the right person.
I cannot relate more. Thank you so much for sharing. Julian, what about you?
What about me? Also long-term relationship. I'm married with 2 children who seems to be sleeping now. I didn't hear anything for 10 minutes. Yeah, my status is, I would say very good. Everything fine. I had 3 weeks of vacation only with the 2 kids. And also with my wife is everything fine. I'm still very touched right now by the fact that my wife offered to cut my hair before this session starts. simply because by offering this, she has shown me that she has perceived how I'm looking forward to this session tonight. This is one of those typical little things that make me feel good, especially at the moment. And what is the biggest thing I learned through Journey to Love? Yeah, that love is a decision, I would say. And in my opinion, that's exactly the difference between infatuation and love. While love is a long-term decision, infatuation is something intensive, but just a short-term emotion. And yeah, that's it. The problem of many couples is that the TV leads us oftenly to misconception that infatuation is real love. And I think that's it.
Okay, yes. Thank you. Thank you. I can, relate to everything what you've been saying to, those who do not know me. I met my husband 2 years ago. 1 year ago, we got married, and now we have already a baby. So this may all sound like super fast, intense, but also it was a very long journey. And similar to Julia, I had, bumpy 20s, and two actually biggest lessons which probably I have drawn from my experiences was, first, if you get into a relationship where it may seem everything is fine, like a great person, but you feel something is wrong, something is not in line with you, do not build the house on a foundation where there is sand, because it will fall apart sooner or later. So better simply just not to go the long way. And the second learning was about importance of values, that it can be love, it can be passion, it can be many things, but if in the end you want different things, this will also break it in a hard way. So that is why when I finally collected all those experiences and I met my husband and suddenly it became easy, then it had finally worked. So this is like where I am standing in position right now, curious about how to make it work long term. Yeah, that is why let us continue with a question, maybe first one. Why is it so hard to fall in love and to stay in love?
I would start and add to what Julian just mentioned. And that is, I believe that one of the things that makes it really hard for so many people is misconceptions or certain expectations about love that really have a negative impact on how we lead relationships. So I grew up with Disney movies and The Prince and the Princess and Happily Ever After. And so many people have that view still that there's this one person out there. And if you just meet that one person, then there's no fighting, no conflicts. Everything is just perfect and easy all the time, which is just not true. But it makes us wonder, like whenever we have conflict in our relationship, maybe there's someone out there that I just haven't found yet that might be a better match. And so we keep chasing. And the second thing is also the confusion between being in love and loving. It's not the same, right? And this belief makes us chase the spark. And I think the point where you go from being in love and the butterflies are gone and it's not that exciting anymore to actually loving is where so many people just switch partners and don't manage to make that switch. But evolutionary psychology tells us that we're in love for just the right amount of time to procreate, to have kids and pass on our genes. That's not romantic, but that's what being in love is made for. So it's not made to last. And this expectation, I think, makes us very unhappy, and many people could have better relationships if they could change their view about love. And to me, I know that sounds controversial and many people don't agree with that view, but I would say love is not an emotion. At least it's not just an emotion. So it's not either you feel it or you don't, and there's nothing you can do about it. No, you can. It's something that you can, to a certain degree, influence. So maybe we can talk about that later. I'm sure the others have ideas to add.
Yeah, I'd love to add to that, that one of the reasons that I experience or what I encounter with my clients is it's like a fear of intimacy and vulnerability. Like we're so trained in our society nowadays not to show how we feel, not to show when we're sad, not to show when we're angry, not to show when we're jealous, maybe not to even show when we're in love. Like whatever your background, a lot of people are conditioned not to show how they feel. And when you're in relationship, you can't but expose every single part of you. And for a lot of people, that's terrifying, to be seen, to be vulnerable, because you could get your heart broken and that's seen as the end of the world. And so many people hit a certain level of intimacy and there's a sign it's going to go deeper. And it's like, whoop, I'm not going to do that. Or to avoid intimacy, we'll chase the people who aren't unavailable, or will be the unavailable person, and you might flip in that dynamic. Yeah, so it's actually people's relationship with vulnerability, in my experience, is what can block that.
From my 14 months period of life where I was like intensively using a dating app and like trying to find a person through a dating app, I had a feeling also that basically dating apps is one of the main channels for us now to meet new people, and a limitless amount of profiles where you just need to swipe. It makes it so like really shallow that it is just, I don't know, description or a hot photo, and then everyone is replaceable. I've was myself a person who went on 5 new first dates per week, so that it becomes a little bit more of a commodity. And instead of trying really to see the person and try to establish genuine connection, it is so easy to simply just like really get into this loop. Oh my God, why should I settle right now if tomorrow I meet someone who is better? So that it is like a little bit like dangerous.
Okay, last but not least. Yeah, in my opinion, it's always hard to fall in love when you don't have your head clear, in my opinion. Even worse, when you put yourself under pressure to fall in love now, right now. And the worst of all, when you are even afraid of not falling in love anymore. I see many parallels here with cases in which I work with couples in sexual therapy. My opening question is always, what do you think the 3 most important sexual organs are? And many are surprised by the answer I give them. It's firstly the brain, it's secondly the brain, and it's thirdly the brain. And yeah, the biggest pleasure killers are stress, success pressure, and fear. That's it at the end. In my view, you can apply this in the same way to the falling in love issue, because stress is usually something homemade. It arises from the fact that a person either does not set priorities and tries to bring everything under one head, or that this person has secretly set priorities but is not honest with himself. And in both variants, it must come then inevitably to stress. And this then becomes a real burden. So far to the falling in love. Even more difficult, in my opinion, is staying in love, as well because of the priority issue I just mentioned before. Here, the complicating factor is that the prioritization must fit over even much longer period of time, at best over the entire duration of the relationship. And here, all such things play a big role, which suddenly change life. In the first place, of course, joint children. I hear many parents saying, we work well as parents. It's only as a couple that we've lost each other. I was talking about this phenomenon with my cousin, who was a social educator and also a great mother in my eyes. She told me one thing that surprised me at the first moment. She said that most parents think, if our kids are doing well, we are doing well. But as I learned from her, that's exactly the wrong way of thinking. The better approach is, if we as a couple are doing well, the kids are doing well. Admittedly, it took me, but by now I've really internalized that phrase, and I communicate it also to my clients.
Yes, thank you. I have a feeling that really passion and sexuality is really one of the key questions how we choose a person, and then really how happy we are in a long-term relationship. So I have a feeling Caoi can be our expert on this topic. Do you have, like, how do you think, how important is sex in the relationship? And also, if it was in the beginning peak super attraction, and then obviously for years down the line it's already like fading away, is there a way to reignite the sparkle? Maybe there is one or two ideas you can have.
Yeah, so firstly, is sex important? It depends on the people and the relationship. If you're in a relationship where two people don't care, that's fine. But it's actually around the desires and needs of both people and that it's aligned. I don't just say, yes, of course, sex is important, because it depends on the people. And then in terms of, I loved what Julian said around what's the most important part for good sex, and that's your brain. But I was surprised it didn't say your ears and your mouth, because communication in sex is so key. What drives that, like that strong connection during sex, is being super vulnerable and speaking the truth, which most people aren't trained to do in sex. If you're not having good sex, it's because you're not being honest. It's because you're not actually saying, this is what I want you to do, or I don't like that. Can you do this instead? And most people find that so confronting, because they don't want to hurt their partner's ego, and their partner might really want to know, but they still want to protect their partner's ego, or they may not be in touch enough with their own desires and their own body around what they want to even communicate that. Yeah, so that would be my tip. If there's no sex tips, it's like, oh, touch someone's cock this way or someone's pussy that way. It's not about tips. It's actually more about being honest with your partner around what's happening sexually.
I have a feeling it is also can be related to shame, to admit something what you want, and yeah, how to overcome it. Like you cannot simply, I don't know, just say it during the breakfast, or maybe you can.
Yeah, I agree on that. It can be a shame, or also be afraid of the partner who wants to formulate a wish. Oh, maybe I make pressure on my partner. And so maybe it's better to say nothing. I think that's also an issue which leads to the situation that they don't talk at all about sex.
Yeah, this is dangerous. It's why I really like a line, like main thing is that we always keep talking, because communication can get you out of almost like any conflict. And very dangerous is if there is something building inside of yourself and it is like a hidden volcano, and then suddenly, I don't know, you leave a notice on a table, pack your bags, and you are out, and your partner didn't even have a chance to address and work on something together. So yeah, I fully agree about communication. However, like in the current moment of lockdown, where people who are in relationship may be stuck together in one apartment, it may get actually like too much and may get suffocating. Let us maybe zoom in into this question about how Corona has influenced, on one side, couples in relationships, and also the chances of single people to find their love life.
I'm asked this quite openly. Is Corona a couple relationship killer? And my answer is normally yes and no. Of course, the Corona pandemic has been dominating large parts of our life for now about 1 year. And as a couple therapist, I have also felt this in my work, of course. The Corona issue has had very different effects depending on the couple relationship. Essentially, I've noticed 3 different variations. The first one is a little bit Corona issue as a central point of dispute. The second one is Corona restriction as reactivation of old conflict topics. And the third one, what was quite surprising for me, is Corona risk as an occasion for new commitment to each other, maybe one by one. The first one, in some couple relationship, the Corona issue has become the central point of dispute in the relationship. And this is especially true for couples who got along well many years and always agreed on essential issues. Suddenly they discover that their partner thinks completely differently when it comes to the corona issue. Whether it's, I don't know, mandatory masks, closing restaurants and hairdressers, or mandating homeschooling and home office, people suddenly disagree about everything. And then the thought, is my partner already a kind of conspiracy theorist or just a critical spirit? Is my partner endangering our family with his behavior? These are the discussions sometimes in the first group, this variation. The second one, there, corona itself is not the issue. Rather, the corona restriction led to a greater visibility of conflict issues that had always been there. And here the home office in particular plays a central role, because things that have always latently bothered you about your partner are suddenly much more present, simply because you sit on the top of each other and much more often, and you are less and less able to get out of each other's way. Often it's about the supposed, I would say, perfectionism of one of the partners, or the supposed carelessness of the other partner. These are so typical discussions. And the last group that really surprised me, as I said, is there are also couple relationships in which the corona risk has a kind of bonding effect. Especially the increasing numbers of infection led some couples to ask, what would actually happen if I lost my partner because of corona? And this question leads couples to return to what they value most about each other. And this in particular gives me personal courage. And at the same time, it serves as a nice appeal for couples to possibly lead to a new commitment as a couple.
Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe adding to that, I think it would also, it's often also the case that people put a lot of pressure on themselves. Given that we are in a pandemic, it's totally okay and normal that not everything flows as smoothly as we know it. And it's okay to admit that it's hard to be trapped with your partner in your apartment for a year now. Obviously, you fight, stuff happens, and that's okay. And also, I think no one wakes up for 40 years every morning next to their partner and they have their hair all messed up and pillow wrinkles in their face and go, oh, I love you so much, this is amazing, you're the cutest person. No, that's also an unrealistic expectation. So I think sometimes it's also about managing these expectations and just accepting what's happening right now, and that's tough. So many people feel depressed and many couples fight. And yes, that we have external circumstances that we never had before. So that's normal and that's okay. And that doesn't have to mean that you're not with the right person.
Yeah, what I'd love to add to that is that to support couples in this space in the pandemic, is if there's any way that you can consciously create periods of time where you're separated, because it's very hard to be erotically drawn to someone who's always there. It's like there's no polarity, there's no pull, there's no mystery. And so if there's ways that you can build in time separate from your partner, like going on walks without them, doing activities without them, just like getting that space, clear your buffers, is super helpful to help that, like that desire for them to come back, because too much it's like, oh. So if you can create that time, it's really helpful.
I would also add to this that it is not only time apart, but the quality of this time apart. Because I don't know, if you sit at home and just depressed in your corner and you meet again, you are not contributing to the fire of passion. But if you do something where you feel, I don't know, great sense of achievement, you had some happy event happening, you come back, I don't know, your eyes are shining. This is where you are back in the mood for being playful and like connecting and maybe admit your wrongs, compared when you are low on your own energy. So that basically make sure that we satisfy our own needs first place and do not expect that the other person will feel certain like deficit.
I just want to say I love that. Yeah. to say that. That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, so like we have 5 minutes for our 4 people discussion. So let us maybe wrap up with a question. What would be your few ideas how to make it last in love? Or for single people who are now in the middle of pandemic, how maybe to improve their chances for happy scenarios?
So for things to last in love, when I got with my partner, we actually did a relationship contract when we got together, and we wrote down what we desired, how like we gave up our games, we gave up our patterns, we got clear in our values doing it as a contract. So it's like designing the relationship, because we're currently monogamous, but we're open to being open. So we had all these discussions up front. So it was really clear that we were aligned from the start and we were both serious. So I really recommend that for anyone who's new, or even in a current relationship. You can always institute that as a practice. And then if you're single, I found my man like going to an online singles event in a community that I was really passionate about. I went to something where I liked the people, and it was a singles event, and I found them, and I've had friends with similar experiences. So I love what Julia said, find something that turns you on and brings you joy, and chances are you stay open, you can find someone.
I love the idea of the relationship design contract thing. I had a similar thing in mind, and that is called relationship check-in. I don't know if you know that, but some people even call it their jour fixe of the relationship. So it's a meeting where you sit down with your partner, no distractions, you agree on a time. You can do that once a week, once a month, once a quarter, whatever you feel like it. And the idea is to have kind of a state of the union meeting where you talk about what's going well, what's going not so well, what can be our goals for the next quarter, whatever. As a couple, it should be a safe space, obviously, where you can be vulnerable and really address things. And it's often easier to do that when you set a certain time and date than when you do that in the morning when the kids are running around just between, I don't know, 2 tasks. So it's great to set a certain amount of time aside and just discuss things like, what did I do last month that made you feel loved? What did I do that upset you? And what do you want to aspire to as a couple? I think that's a great and very tangible tool that you can use.
Thank you. Julian.
Yeah, I agree on everything. So not so much to add. I always say it's good to never feel safe. This may sound like you should distrust your partner all the time, but that's not what I mean. I think that the basis of every successful couple relationship is trust. What I mean is that you have to be careful that trust does not develop to laziness. As a couple, you should agree on rituals with every other that both of you enjoys. These can be very simple, sometimes everyday things. It must only be clear that what is happening there is happening for the couple relationship. And I always advise that you do not have to be dictated by any calendar in this world to celebrate Valentine's Day only one day a year.
Thank you. My relationship advice I have taken from a book which I'm currently reading. It is called The Compound Effect, and it is having a Thanksgiving journal where you basically write one thing a day where you felt loved, connected, happy about your partner. And maybe if you show it to your partner, like later when the book is over, your partner will be happy. But as the most magical part of this exercise, it is doing to your own mind, because it makes you focus on things what were good, which made you happy, and doing it day by day really like shifts the perspective and then basically influences like my reactions, and I really like feel the power of it, and I'm like looking forward to keep going when it will be a couple of months. And for single people, it would be to say yes. For example, I met my husband going on a blind date set up by a person where I didn't trust in matchmaking skills. And this, simply being open-minded, not to say, oh, this person doesn't work for me or I didn't like it. Just be open and see, maybe there will be room for a match. On this note, we're wrapping up our discussion. Thank you all for listening to this special public edition of Deep Talks. You're always welcome to join our private Deep Talk salons to share your thoughts and stories. Visit thedeeptalks.com to join.